gentleman is not only just phenomenal at the underage market and also the Medicare market, but he really specializes in the under 65 market. Every year since going independent, he's written over $1 million in health insurance premium on his own pen. He runs the Health Insurance Hustlers Facebook group and the Insurance Sucks podcast. And he's here. He's got quite a bit of material he wants to cover with you guys. He didn't really seem to have one topic. He's got a pretty broad range of stuff he wants to pour into you. Please welcome my good friend, Mr. Bradley Hannon.
Matt was telling me the joke back there that he was going to tell, and I'm not surprised he didn't tell it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm interested to see what Tony's voice sounds like tomorrow, right? Or if there will be a voice, because it's a little rough. Like Tony, I've been running hard these past few days too. I was in Boca Raton Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was in Vero Beach. Thursday, got to see my family for a few, 6 hours. Then I'm here. Then I'm back Sunday. Then I'm back in Boca Raton Monday, Tuesday. So I certainly don't envy those that have to travel for work all the time. Telesales is great, is it not? Like, I love being able to be home or be at the office and work. So, but yeah, like Tony said, my specialty, or what I've specialized over the last 6-7 years, has been the under 65 health market. Got to kind of change up the $1 million every year on my own pen thing, because this year I guarantee I will not do it. It'll be the first year that I won't write $1 million in personal production on my own pen. But that's just because, like we've been talking about, it's working on the business and not as much in the business. And there's been so much exciting development, but it's all come out of relationships, right? In this room, I can tell you some of the conversations I've had with Galen, Tony, Christian, Tracy. Some of these conversations and relationships that we've been able to build have changed so much. So I want to say real quick, shout out to Christian for hosting this amazing event, getting all of us all the way over to the West Coast, which is crazy, and what a great turnout. So like Tony said, my name is Brad Hannon. I have a Facebook group called Health Insurance Hustlers Podcast. We call it Insurance Sucks Podcast. Because insurance sucks, I just make it suck less, right? And of course, that's not how we feel in this room about insurance, but the reality in the under 65 market is your end user, your client, probably doesn't wake up excited to pay that premium, am I right? Maybe they have a zero premium. Their insurance probably still sucks a little bit, but they're at least not feeling that because they're not paying a premium. So that's just a little play on words. And then my agency is called Elite Performance Insurance Company. But funny story about that picture right there. I actually had a picture of myself on there in this jacket. But because my dry cleaning was left at the dry cleaners and they close early because they have COVID hours, literally, on the door. I'm thinking they're closing at 7. I've got like 5 suit jackets there. I've got, my whole wardrobe to bring here was at the dry cleaner. And go there at 6:30. They're supposed to close at 7. They close at 6 due to COVID because, I don't know, it's dangerous after 6. So, anyways, we're not getting into that. So I wore this jacket. Now I match Tony and Tracy and Johnny and everybody. I like to wear something like that pops a little bit more, so I don't match everybody. But hey, at least I'm in good company. So that's my beautiful wife, Ashley, my youngest son, Bowden, and then my oldest son, Brecken, who is 3, and then my youngest is 8 months. So really awesome. But the insurance industry has blessed me with so much opportunity and an amazing way to raise my family in a new environment. But I want to leave it up to you guys what we talk about today. I've got a few different things, right? One of the things that I wanted to talk about was the evolution of the under 65 market. Anybody want to talk about the evolution of the under 65 market? Yeah. Okay, a few people. Or how to make 6 figures in the or basically 6-figure health insurance agent, right? Since this is the 6 Figure Medicare Summit, I figured we might talk about that. Should we talk about that? Should we talk about, I have basically a universal presentation, okay, it doesn't matter what policy you're selling, what type of policy you're selling in the under 65 market, you can use the same process, right? Duplication is very important. You can use the same process, same pitch, if you will, for any type of policy. Should we talk about that? All right, good. We'll just talk about all of them. So we're going to talk about the evolution of the under 65 market. We're going to break down how to make six figures as a health insurance agent, right? Six figures by the numbers. And then we're going to talk about a method that I call the fork method, right? It's kind of like the fork in a road, right? You can only go one of two ways. So the fork method. And then the last thing is the ultimate universal health insurance pitch, which will segue us right into Galen's presentation, and then she'll blow it out of the water, right? Telling you how to pitch cancer plans and all that stuff, or, help people with them, not pitch. I guess that's a dirty word. It all works. So we got a lot to cover, but I'm going to move through it pretty quickly because we want to save plenty of time for Galen, right? So the evolution of the market, right? And this is through my eyes, by the way. I got the mic. This is the evolution of the market through my eyes, the way that I've seen the opportunity kind of exist, and it may be different than some others, and that's okay. But this is just the things that have happened that have kind of, shifted my focus back and forth, and you'll see why. So in 2009, I know that's really small, but in 2009, the ACA passed through the Senate and the House, right? It was enacted. Obviously, that was a massive overhaul of our healthcare system, right? It was the biggest overhaul of our healthcare system I think we've probably ever seen. And so it created a ton of confusion, right? And obviously, confusion requires assistance. And so it became an amazing opportunity. However, when the ACA rolled out, they cut commissions, so everybody was leaving that market. So there was very little competition. Now, I started in 2016, late 2015, early 2016. And so when I came in, right, they had the individual mandate in place. You had to have it. And they still do, but, there was a penalty for not having it. They had, there was just so much confusion. The premiums were outrageous. And so there was a huge need for alternative options, right? So when I came in as a captive agent selling a product that was positioned as an alternative to the ACA because there was so much confusion, such high premiums, poor benefits, high deductibles, a lot of out-of-pocket, limited networks. All of these things caused this need for alternative options, right? And so I want to tie all this in, guys, by the way, to kind of building up your pipeline, because most of us here are Medicare. A lot of you still do under 60. Raise your hand if you do under 65 now. Yeah, so you guys already know all this stuff, see? It's perfect. So, there's a huge need for these alternative options. However, then in late 2016, they passed a law to limit short-term medical options to only 90 days. That made things really hard to sell, right? I see some of you guys shaking your heads. You guys probably remember when, I'm talking like I'm so old. You probably remember way back when, in 2016, when they had, there was like 4x3s, right? That were like renewing plans. So you would get 3 months of coverage, and it would renew you get 3 months of coverage, it would renew 4 times a year, which means your deductible resets and all of that. So not really a whole lot of valuable competition to the ACA. However, people were still buying it left and right because they weren't going to pay the astronomical premiums on the marketplace, right? How many of you guys remember that? Yeah, I mean, it was a much harder plan to sell at that point in time, and even indemnity products too. I mean, there was a lot going. Galen, by the way, I looked it up. When did Manhattan Life go to bat for indemnity? What year was that? Because it didn't make it on my timeline because I couldn't find it. What was it? 2015. So 2015, right? It's perfect because that's like right where we're at. So in 2015, Manhattan Life went to bat for indemnity plans because they were trying to get rid of those too, and that was an alternative that people were utilizing, right? If not for a standalone plan, for a great ancillary to the ACA plan. So late 2016, they limit these short-term medical plans. Everyone's kind of freaking out. It makes them really hard to sell. In fact, if you're in tune with what's going on in the industry, you probably heard a little buzz about it potentially happening again, and people are like, oh no, what am I going to do? We all made it through 2016 on the under 65 side. That was all I was selling then. No Medicare. There wasn't, no life insurance. It was just under 65. And we made it, so if they did it, we'd be fine. But you'll see where we're going with this. So the law was passed. I did that twice. Then the individual mandate was repealed, right? That created another opportunity because a lot of the people that were afraid of getting penalized, right, now they didn't have to necessarily worry about that because the penalty was zero. So again, it kind of opened up another avenue. Then fast forward to 2018, Trump Care, right? You probably saw the ads. They basically just expanded short-term medical to be renewable for up to 3 years. You got 12-month plans back. And so that created a great opportunity right up until, and it's all still great. I'm just kind of giving you some of the backstory because, side note, when I got into the industry, I really started to study like the history of it, like where it had evolved from, some of the major players, kind of the shifts, and I'm making the cameraman work a lot too, I see that. But just some of the things that have happened in the history, because I think that the best indicator of the future is oftentimes the past, right? Not always, right? If you got a dark past, doesn't mean you got to have a dark future, but in this business, right, things kind of go through a cycle. So really started to study the past and kind of seeing some of this stuff come to light. Now, 2018, 12-month plans go live again, and then 2021, the government throws all this money at the ACA, and that's where we are today, right? So I think there's always going to be a need for alternative options, right? People want choice. People need choice. There will always be a need because we are still seeing a ton of higher net worth individuals that don't qualify for a subsidy that wouldn't touch a marketplace plan if you paid them to, right? Unless you're paying their premium, maybe. But they just wouldn't get on the marketplace. And so there's still a need for it. However, there's a massive, massive, massive opportunity in the ACA space right now. How many of you guys are writing ACA? Probably most of you. I find that most Medicare agents that are focused on Medicare are often, they often believe that ACA is really the only option. In fact, I was at Medicare Con, and I was talking with Justin, right? He was interviewing me, and I said, I do want to make it clear because a lot of people ask me what I do, and I say under 65, so they're like, oh, ACA? And I said from stage, I just want to make it clear that's not exactly all it is because we deal a lot in the private market with alternative options and so on and so forth. I said this from stage. It wasn't 20 minutes later, I get off stage, go to the bathroom, walking out of the bathroom, somebody comes up, hey, you're Brad, right? So you do a lot of ACA? I'm like, well, I do. We do a lot of ACA, but it's funny because you hear that, right? Like that's when you're talking to Medicare-focused agents, it's, I do under 65 health, and they're like, oh, ACA. But there is another part of that world out there. It would be similar to, you probably have had run-ins or dealt with maybe a Medicare call center agent that left the call center opportunity, and they're coming on board with you, and they're like, well, Advantage is just the way to go, right? Because that's kind of how they were trained in that call center, right? So, but it's important that we open our eyes to, I saw that, Zach. It's important that we open our eyes to the entire opportunity, right? The entire, sector of that market, right? All of those options. And I'm not saying you should become an expert or you need to become an expert in every single option, but if you're that call center agent and you're, coming into Medicare on the indie side and you're only selling Advantage, you're probably not doing the best thing for every single client because it's very unlikely that 100% of the people you run into are a fit for MAPD. Make sense? So that's kind of how I would relate that market. Now, I will spend a decent amount of time at least talking about the impact of the American Rescue Plan and what we're seeing out there. I mean, we are seeing last year, 14.5 million enrollees in the ACA. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, you can fact check though. I'm pretty sure the highest year before that was like 9 million, right around 9 million, maybe 10. So they had I think 20% increase in enrollments because you saw a massive amount of people qualifying for a tax credit now, right? So it's become almost like an enrollment and not a sale, right? You're helping somebody with a free plan, a lot like the MAPD. So that's where we are today. And I give you the backstory, just one, so that you understand kind of how the market's evolved, but two, because I do urge you to kind of lean into some of the private options, because you will come across maybe not a 60-year-old, maybe not a 64-year-old. That makes sense, because a lot of times there may be some health issues and things like that. But you will come, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's somebody that's healthy, not qualified for a subsidy. Instead of putting them on a $900 ACA plan, you can put them on a much more affordable option or a bundled plan. So just kind of get into that stuff, dig into that. I have a channel that is kind of dedicated to training on those options as well as the ACA. Make sense?
What's your channel name?
It's just Brad Hannon. So I want to break down 6 figures as a health agent, and I'm going to do this both on the ACA, right, and the private side. And this isn't like, if you notice everything that we go through today, it's going to be super simple, right? I am a firm believer in keeping it simple, right? Not because I'm stupid, but because, I'm not smart. No, I'm just kidding. So we're just going to break it down by the numbers, and it's just rough numbers. It's just to give you an idea. It's just to give you some targets, right? Because if you really lean it, I heard somebody saying they're running Facebook ads, right, or dabbled in Facebook ads. And if you're running Facebook ads on the ACA side right now, there's a very low CPA. It's a very easy market to tap into. If nothing else, it's a great secondary stream of income as you start to build it. But it's a longer, slower build, right? It just is. But that's okay, because you guys aren't going anywhere, right? You guys are going to be in this business for a while. I know I will. So we'll break down the ACA. And forgive me, because I sent it through Keynote, and I had to convert it to PowerPoint so they could open it, because it wasn't on a Mac. And so it kind of messed up some of the slides, but we can see it still, right? So the average ACA commission, maybe unless you're through Agent Pipeline, I don't know, they probably have better commissions. But the average ACA commission, we'll just say street level, is $20 per member per month. Okay, that's how most of them pay, $20 per member per month. So that would tell us that about 400 members would equal 100,000. Is that right? That doesn't seem right. 400 members. 400 members times 20. Okay, so we got to sell some ancillary on top of it, right? You'll get there still. You'll sell ancillary with it. I think I originally was running numbers different. I didn't change that. But the average household size is 2, so that really equals about 200 policies. Right, 200 policies on the books, and this doesn't have to be in one.
If you did 416 people.
Yeah. Okay, so we're close. We're like 40 people off. Right, like I said, we'll keep it really simple, just a roundabout number. Right, you'll get close. But 200 policies with no ancillary, okay, could equal a 6-figure income. That's not. How many of you guys are writing 200 Medicare policies a year? Right, a handful, but it's still doable. It's definitely doable. Now, on the private side, commissions are going to be a little bit different. And when I say private, I'm just talking about short-term medical, fixed benefit. There are some, ERISA-style group plans that are, paid on a percentage basis. But we're talking 20% commission on an average premium of about $400. Okay, would take 100 policies there. So maybe you do 100 ACA apps, and 50 of them are on the private side. But you have to know what's the best fit for the client if you're going to do that. Makes sense? So I want to teach the fork method. Okay, this is a very simple, this is what we train new agents on coming in, on how to identify what's the best fit. Because how many of you guys have downline agents? What would you say like the biggest problem, the biggest hurdle that you've got to overcome with a new agent trying to identify the right plan? Any guesses to that? Like, what's that? Work ethic. Yeah, well, that's why they don't maybe succeed. But like lack of knowledge, yeah. But what I'm getting at is a lot of times it's a lack of discovery, right? I field phone calls or texts or whatever. Hey, I got this person, 38 in Florida. What's the best option for him? I'm like, well, geez, I don't know. But new agents, that's just a tendency. Like you don't want to ask all the questions that you need to ask, or you're scared to ask all the questions because you're newer. But you've got to do a thorough discovery. You don't know what's the best option for somebody unless you thoroughly discover, right, and uncover everything. So the two-way street approach, this is just a visual for you, and I got a little flow chart as well. But this is just a quick little visual, right? In my eyes, it's very clear when you're talking to somebody based on the information that we'll go through, whether it's ACA or non-ACA, right? And so that's just a little visual for you, but here's a little flow chart, and I know it's blurry, so I can send this to you, right? If you guys reach out to me, I'll give you my email, whatever. I can send you the flow chart. Basically, what we're saying here is the first question, okay, if it's not open enrollment, okay, is do they have a QLE or an SEP? Okay, do they have a qualifying life event or do they have a special enrollment period? If it's yes, well then let's start with the ACA. All of my agents know to start there, right? We are going to see if the ACA is a viable option before we do anything else, before we move forward with anything else. It's super easy to do. Takes a couple minutes to plug in their info, their income, and determine whether that premium would be affordable or not. And sometimes it's not necessarily up to you whether the premium would be affordable or not. We've got to ask the client, but we start with the ACA. If it's a viable option, yes, then bundle it, right? Bundle it with Manhattan Life out-of-pocket protection, accident, critical illness. If you can sell all of that, heck yeah. HMA, another great product. So if it's yes, sell the ACA, but don't stop there, right? Go to the queen of the bundle, learn how to bundle, make sure your client's taken care of, right? If ACA is not a viable option, well, then we start to look into short-term medicals, indemnities. And again, the reason why I built the brand Insurance Sucks is because I came from an organization that sold every single health insurance plan like it was the best thing since sliced bread, right? They talk it up like it's somebody buying a new car or a new house or something. Like they're going to get you super excited about your PPO. Nobody gets excited about PPOs. You guys do. We do. Like, we're weird. So when I left there, I'm trying to take that same approach, and I'm like talking to people about these plans, but I didn't really feel like they were all that great. So I didn't really know why I was talking about them like they were all that great. And I just thought about it. I just said, well, what are the other options, right? And I started to use this expression with people. Listen, if we have 10 options, right? Let's say we had 10 options for your health insurance, and all 10 options, they kind of suck a little bit, and that's exactly how I would say it to a client, right? Like, and I'm going to gauge it too. If it's certain people, you probably don't say this, but if all 10 options kind of suck a little bit, it doesn't change the fact that we have 10 options, right? And we've got to choose one because you're not going to go uninsured, are you? No. Okay. So that's where the Insurance Sucks brand came from, is because right after that I would say, because listen, the reality is insurance sucks, and my job is just to make it suck less. Fair enough? That's it. So is ACA a viable option? If it's yes, well, roll with it because it's a viable option. If it's no, let's go short-term medical, let's go private, let's get educated on some of these alternative options so that we're not leaving money on the table there or not leaving a client unprotected. Now, outside of open enrollment, if they do not have a QLE or SEP, do not go and try and create one. I don't understand how agents will risk their entire license just to create a QLE for somebody or an SEP for somebody on the marketplace and like lie. I have a client right now whose wife is pregnant and like I did the discovery, right? I asked every question. I made certain that they didn't have a QLE because I wanted to help them, but I didn't. And then I find out they're on Florida Blue. Well, how'd you do that? Well, my sister recommended somebody. We called them. I'm like, well, I don't even want to know that person's name. But yeah, just don't do that. So QLE or SEP, no. Well, then we still have to go the private options, right? Short-term medical, fixed benefit, these kind of alternative options, if you will. And if they do have a qualifying, or if they do, if it's a QLE or SEP and it's no, the next question is, do they have a pre-existing condition, right? Are they healthy? Are they qualified for an underwritten plan? If the answer is no, well, I mean, if they have a pre-existing condition, the answer is yes to that, then you've got to go with something guaranteed issue, right? We've got to put something in place, in my opinion. If they have nothing, right, something is better than nothing. So when we talk about, there's a kind of a fit for every single product. One thing that I used to think, or one thing I used to tell a lot of agents and thought myself was, man, if an insurance carrier, right? Somebody invested a bunch of money into creating a product, into, like marketing that product and distributing that product. I would imagine they probably found some sort of use case for it, right? Like people much smarter than me were looking at this thinking, okay, this is viable. This could fit for this, or this, right? So there are guaranteed issue plans out there. There are plans out there that just if you mentioned it, you'd be like, oh, that's crap. But if it's getting them through, like if it's a bridge, you're doing it for the right reasons, it's better than nothing, right? So do they have a pre-existing condition? Yes. Well, let's go guaranteed issue. If not, well, again, a great opportunity for short-term medical, fixed benefit, so on and so forth. Does this make sense? All right, so the last thing I want to do with you real quick is just go through the Ultimate Universal Health presentation. This is a very simple process, and again, the slides I think got a little messed up, but oh no, they look perfect. There's 3 main things that we're going to talk about when we're presenting a health plan, okay? And this is what I do with any type of insurance, okay? Number 1, day-to-day. I'm sorry, not any type of insurance, any type of under 65. Number 2, accident. And number 3, what happens in those major medical catastrophic situations, okay? Can anybody think of anything that's outside of those 3 categories that you would need health insurance for? Man, I definitely thought. Come on. Can anyone think of a plan that covers you domestic and international? I think they actually do. There's one that does exist, so yeah. But still, the point is that doesn't count. Good try, though, Zach. The point is that nothing really will fall outside of this, even if it's kind of a little bit outside, like maybe an outpatient procedure. You're still in a hospital usually, or no, well, you're not in the hospital because it's outpatient. You're still going to have a big bill, right? It's still expensive. So I would call that catastrophic or major medical. So, I'm talking to Zach, right? I'm selling Zach a plan. And Zach, listen, I know you have coverage now. We're going to look at this option as compared to your coverage. And really, when we talk about insurance, Zach, there's 3 things that we want to know, okay? There's 3 things that we're going to go through on this plan. The first is day-to-day. Okay, the second is going to be those accident scenarios. It happens, right? Accidents happen. The reason I put that in there, by the way, is so that you can cross-sell. And then the third thing, and the major thing, the real reason you have health insurance, right? My goal in this presentation is to get their mind on the real reason they have health insurance right from the start. So I throw that in there right at the start. Hey, the last thing we're going to talk about is the real reason you have health insurance, and that's for the big things, right? When I go to sleep at night, I want to make sure that my clients are protected against the big stuff. Occasionally, I'll get a call from a client that they got a $200 doctor's bill. While I do want to help them, and while I do try to help them, that's not my job, right? And I'm talking to a client. Because, Zach, you don't file bankruptcy for a $200 doctor's visit, right? So we're going to talk about the big stuff last. That's what I want you to really remember. But I know the day-to-day stuff's really important to you, Zach, because you do go to the doctor occasionally. You do, maybe take a prescription, and I would know this at the time. But so we're going to talk about the day-to-day. Okay, the first thing you need to know is that this plan runs on X network. If you're selling ACA, what I like to put in here is that the first thing that you need to know is that the ACA has semi-limited networks. So we're going to try to find the plan that best fits for all your doctors, but it's very possible that to get you the best coverage at the best price, we may have to look at some other doctors. And people are like, whoa. But when you really dig into it, right, they end up kind of having to do it because why? So if you have 10 options and all 10 options kind of suck, doesn't change the fact that we got to choose one, right? So network, right? Then we're going to throw in copays, whatever fits in that day-to-day category. If it's got a telemedicine benefit, if there's specialist copays, prescription copays, anything in that day-to-day, okay? I like to take some time to look up doctors. It's a great rapport-building exercise. So I'm getting through that day-to-day. And I'm hitting it first because I promise you when you talk to them, that's the number one thing they're thinking. I wonder how much I'm going to pay when I have to go to the doctor on this new plan. I don't know why, but that's the number one thing people are thinking. So the second is going to be accidents, Zach. You had mentioned you like to run and jog and, whatever. Don't laugh. I love you, bro. Zach, you said you like to exercise a lot. You're always in the gym and stuff. And so we want to talk about accidents because, listen, it happens. And we put an accidental plan in place for you. It's kind of like an Aflac benefit. It's going to help you, especially if you're selling ACA, bundling with the accident. It's going to help you, cover that $6,000 deductible, that $8,000 deductible, right? It's going to help you cover that $5,000 deductible. Typically, what I'll do in there, especially if they have coverage, let's say they have, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I know what their deductible is, and I'm looking at a new plan. It's got a, let's just say $5,000 deductible. I'm going to say, well, you know what would happen, Zach, on whether it be your plan or the plan that we're looking at now, you know what would happen if you had a $3,000 accident? And they say, sometimes I don't know. They say, well, I would pay for the whole accident, right? And the insurance wouldn't really do a whole lot. So you're exactly right. You might get a small network discount, but you're really going to come out of pocket $3,000 or close to, and the insurance company is not going to pay anything hardly. Right? They're paying to utilize a network, small fee in comparison to, whatever. I read an article about the CEOs of these carriers making a lot of money. It's crazy, but it's good. They're doing a good thing, so they should make a lot of money. So anyways, always bundle that accident. It's a great time to tell them, hey, if you have an accident, rather than paying that $3,000, you're going to pay $250, or you're going to pay $500 for that accident. And we're going to the carrier is going to give you the money to help you cover that deductible. Make sense? So great opportunity to, bundle right there. Explain what would happen without accident, hey, without the accident coverage, just like we just went through. And then lastly, I like to say, we want to cover you, like when I'm getting done with the accident, so, we've talked about the accidents because we want to cover you for the most likely scenario, but also the potentially most devastating, which would be catastrophic. That's my segue into the catastrophic category. And so this is the real reason you have health insurance, Zach. And what I want you to know about this plan is, hey, if you had $100,000 in medical bills, you're going to pay your $5,000 deductible. However, and this is where Queen of the Bundle can help you, however, we've also built in additional cancer coverage or critical illness coverage, whatever, that will help you cover that deductible, but also give you the money, right? Let's say it's $50,000. You take $5,000 out of it, you pay your $5,000 deductible. Now you've got $45,000. I actually say this. You can go to Vegas, you can put it all on black if you want, right, Tony? Did you do that? You can, I literally say that in another presentation I have of this. It says, one of the bullet points says, you can go to Vegas and put it all on black. I actually say that because I want to get a little laugh, and then I want to bring it back in but seriously, that money is to cover travel and expenses. If you have to go see a specialist across the country, to cover time off of work, right? If you've got lost wages, or if you're not able to go back to work, which it's likely if you're diagnosed with cancer. How many know you're not probably going back to work the following week? And if you are, that's a very sad situation, and you need that money more than most, right? So $45,000 is going to go back in your pocket for all of those things, and that's how we bundle the plan. So, and I want to help you get all the way through the presentation. So after I've finished it, day-to-day, accident, catastrophic, at the close, at the end, it's very simple. Does that make sense to you? Is there any questions? Is there anything we didn't talk about that you're curious of? And I'm going to do a great job of trying to hit on everything that I could ever think of. Occasionally things do come up, right? They're like, well, what about this? You didn't talk about it. I teach new agents this because it's just an easy way to kind of compartmentalize. When they ask that question, ask yourself, does it fit in the day-to-day? Does it fit in the accident category? Or does that fit into a major medical claim? And answer it accordingly. And then once you've answered the questions, it's very simple. If everything makes sense to you, I'd like to get this plan started for you for June 1st. Do you want a middle initial on the card? I'm going right into an assumptive close because I made it all the way through my presentation. I answered all their questions. There was no real pushback. You'll know if it's not working, right, throughout the presentation. So there's very few objections that you're ever going to have to handle once you've made it through that particular presentation. Does that make sense? So if it makes sense, go close it. But before you do, that's how you can connect with me. Instagram, B_Hannon, YouTube, Brad Hannon and Bradley Hannon on Facebook. I was asked I went to SWAT recently, amazing conference, love that place. And I was doing a breakout session and somebody said, what are you selling? And I love, guys, that Christian hosted this event. And I don't know if anybody shared this, but he asked us not to pitch anything. And he did that to withhold the integrity of the event. And that's why I went into something different than I've ever, like I never train at these type of events. It's usually motivational. It's usually, more, I want to inspire. This is a training. This is more of a training event. So I was excited to talk about that, but it's really cool. Give it up for Christian one more time for creating a credible environment to be able to share like this. But somebody asked me, what are you selling? And I said, I'm not selling anything. I'm sure maybe I'll recruit a couple people from it or whatever, but no, there's no, so why are you doing it? Well, I don't know, because I love this industry. Somebody did it for me. They didn't sell me anything. They sold me on an opportunity. So that's why I'm here today, guys. If you ever reach out to me and have any questions or anything, and we'll open for questions here now, but if you have questions, please reach out. I'm always there. Won't try to recruit you either. I don't really care to. I'm having a blast doing what we're doing. I love this industry. So thank you very much.
Anybody got a question? No questions, huh? Oh, there we go.
So
He's loud.
ACA seems to be the Wild West of marketing and like non-compliance right now. What do you see over the next year to 2 years for that?
Well, I would certainly think it's going to follow a trend with Medicare, right? I mean, it's one of the standards, regulatory body. So, yeah, I mean, which I did hear the other day, and I haven't confirmed it, that the government outsources that, like running the CMS. So I don't know. Danielle would probably know, but Tony stole my mic. I would say that it's going to follow a trend with Medicare for sure. There's people in this room probably much smarter than me when it comes to the regulatory stuff and what the government's doing. I just joined NAHU a month ago thanks to Danielle. So if you're not a member of NAHU, right, you just saw what they did in the ACA space, like allowing commissions year round. They're gonna push for that, or they're already pushing for that. So that's a huge deal. And I think joining an organization like NAHU will help us kind of keep the compliance at bay a little bit. I mean, we want compliance. We don't want no regulations, but we want regulations that make sense, right? That's all. So, and a lot of times what the government does doesn't make sense. So, but I definitely think it is the Wild West right now. There is a huge opportunity, to market and not have to worry about that, but it will change probably over, I wouldn't say in the next 2 years. I would guess, if I had to guess, it's probably 3 years or more, but it's literally just a guess.
Hey, Brad, I just want to say thank you for saying not to create a dumbest thing ever, and
Yeah, you saw thank you. And I know you ladies know you're under 65, so I really appreciate that. And you saw the commission, $20 a member a month. Heck, even if it was a family of 5, it's $100 a month. You're making $1,200 a year to potentially lose your license. It's just not worth it. Anybody? Yeah, I got. I'll tell the one Matt was going to tell. Go ahead.
Really see the screen, but for somebody who maybe doesn't have like a qualified life event and they do have health issues, what kind of products like guaranteed issue for people who want qualify for a short-term medical are there?
Yeah, so if they don't have a QLE and they don't qualify for short-term medical, there's very few options naturally, but there's one plan that we're doing a lot with. That's an ERISA qualified group plan essentially that is guaranteed issue, and it's very pricey, or not very pricey, but there's a few different ones out there that are guaranteed issue, ACA qualified plans, true metal rated. I wouldn't say they're to replace true major medical or even short-term medical for that instance, but if it's the best you can do, then that's what we normally roll with. I mean, that individual that I was telling you about, his wife's pregnant, we put him on that plan. He had a few difficulties finding a doctor, and it's not the most easy to use plan because it's different, and doctors' offices struggle with anything different. Like even ACA plans, it's very difficult for doctors' offices to figure out the billing aspect of things. But even that situation, she was pregnant. We put her on it month 1 of her being pregnant, and it would cover labor and delivery and all that stuff. So it's a unique plan, but it's very, very niche, very niche.
So
Yes.
One more question. So if ARPA goes away, are you already like training your people on what you're going to do for the over 400%?
I'm not training them because I don't want to. I wouldn't until there's something concrete. I mean, we know it's set to end. I don't think for a second it's going to end. In fact, if you ask me, I'm actually gearing up for the opposite. I'm gearing up for it to be extended. I bet you Agent Pipeline is too. Gearing up for it to be extended and the ACA opportunity to continue to grow.
Wasn't Obama just celebrating the anniversary with Biden, and they were talking about eliminating the family glitch?
You watching the news?
Well, I try not to, but
Yes.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah, they are talking about eliminating the family
I haven't
glitch.
heard of
Yes.
ARPA going away at all either, even though I know it's.
Well, it's got to. Yeah, it's.
I know the dates of it, but I'm just saying. So if you don't think it's going to go away, and they're going to try to fix the family glitch, what do you think's going to?
I think I'm gearing up for more ACA. I mean, I'm. If you ask me my opinion, and I'm not Ryan said something awesome about gut feeling, and sometimes you just go with it. And there's a lot of that going on in my life right now, and I could be terribly wrong. But to my other guy's question, he said, "At what point do you start to, build the downline and stop personally producing?" My answer to that back there in my head was very simply when your renewals or your business can support you not making a dime and going to work on something else, because now you are starting a new product. Even if it's just recruiting downlines, you're okay. I got to build out training. I got to build, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and it's not this big daunting task. You do need to just start sometimes, but I think that you have to have a sustainable business that can help you make that transition. So I'm doing a lot of that right now, and I'm having a blast. So good. Thank you guys.